Hello. Um, so I'm still studying the ancient Egyptian Book of Two Ways, which is a coffin text, which is painted inside coffins of Middle Kingdom Egyptian people of the Hare Nome, which the gnomes are the provinces of Egypt, basically. And so these are probably from basically the ruling royal graveyard of that province called Deir al-Barsha. And anyway, so here's a recreation of one version of it. So this is a recreation of version B1C, the coffin of General Seppi. And, he was a very powerful man in Egypt, very close to the pharaoh, I think. And his was the first coffin that I'm aware of to be illustrated where they not only have the coastline of America, these are basically maps of America with this is the East Coast and this is the West Coast. So the West Coast is blue and it's treated as, for some reason, that's here, wait. My cat is about to harass me. Wow. Sometimes you just gotta say no to the cats. Alright, so So I've been trying to, basically figured out what most of this is. This is this is the Alaskan Peninsula. This is Baja California. This is the Rio Grande River, the Rio Bravo. Not sure which offshoot this is. It could be a number of different any number of, or any one of a number of different offshoots. This is the Rio Grande de Santiago in West Mexico, which flows out of Lago Chapala, Lake Chapala, which is called the Fledgling Lake in this map. So these are 4,000 years old. This is about 4,000 years old, maybe a little less. And this is Newfoundland, Cuba, Hispaniola. This seems to be Tierra del Fuego. And the only reason it's positioned so far from the coast is that they had to fit a bunch of text here. And then this is the Amazon River and the Chetumal Bay and Costa Maya Headland. And then this one I've recently figured out. I mean, a lot of these I'm kind of finally really figuring out what they are. And some of them I kind of had figured it out before, but it was just so weird that that it escaped from even my memory until I revisited it. But these ones, it's their bodies are water, but their knives are land. So, even though in here they kind of try to turn his knife into a lizard or something, but it's really supposed to be a two-sided knife, and there's supposed to be an upper blade that is not recreated here for some reason. And so this seems to be the Chesapeake Bay, and the lower part of his knife is Delmarva Peninsula, and the upper part of the knife is Long Island. But that still leaves this. Oh yeah, and this is Baffin Island. That still leaves this and this. Like, I basically know what these are. Like, I know that this has to include it almost certainly includes the St. Lawrence, unless somehow this is Hudson Bay and it's positioned way down here for some reason, whereas it should be over here. But if this is not Hudson Bay, and it doesn't fit that well for Hudson Bay either, it's probably the Gulf of St. Lawrence and or the St. Lawrence River and or the Great Lakes in general. And it's interesting that there's only certain ones of these that don't hold knives. So this one doesn't hold a knife. Cuba and Hispaniola, who are called the two gods, don't hold knives. And the Amazon River doesn't hold a knife. So, not sure what that means. It might mean something. All right, so yeah, with this, there's a possibility that somehow the Aten disk, like the solar disk on his head, is meant to indicate this island surrounded, this like somewhat roundish, not very round, but anyway, basically this island surrounded by a narrow channel of water on three sides. Somehow could be that, and that somehow this is at basically the St. Lawrence River. This is like Quebec City right here. This is some sort of city here, but basically that this would be that this would be the tail with the forked tail, that breaks into two at the end. So, that's possible. I mean, then it's hard to know what would be the legs. So just in general, it's hard to come to an exact determination on what the hell this guy is. Oh, and also this is him flipped. So I flipped him, tried him both sides, since a lot of these are flipped. I flipped him in this one and in this one. So this is comparing him in this way to basically the Gulf of St. Lawrence, which I was thinking maybe he's the Gulf of St. Lawrence, but that would be pretty difficult to understand how he could be, unless maybe this was his tail and this, God knows. Anyway, so yeah, if anybody can figure out what is what on him, some actual feature that corresponds, because I found things that can correspond, that tail thing could correspond to it, but I'm not 100% on it at all. This I was just noticing. This seems to be the gatekeeper that's labeled. That's the gatekeeper of Western South America. That's called he who. It's Isla Puna Island is called he who gains by robbery. So I was realizing that could mean that that this island is very rich in like silt and stuff like that from the Rio Guayas River, the Guayas River, and that, you know, it just, all the silt just comes straight to Isla Puna, something like that. I don't know. Might be more insight into that name. And so this shows like the Gulf of St. Lawrence again. You know, I was thinking at one point maybe, like, I think what I wrote in my book was that the Aten disk was inside one of the Great Lakes. But it's very hard to tell. Like, usually most of these, they actually resemble like some feature at least of the topography, but have yet to, you know, I've definitely found some candidates, but you know, it actually looks more like this guy in a sense, like yeah, somebody with a feather on his hat here in the Gulf of St. Lawrence. But be that as it may, so this is another comparison just showing the shape of Chesapeake Bay and Delmarva Peninsula here. So this is from a reconstruction, and sorry about that. All right, so this is from a reconstruction, and again, they removed part of this. So this is not really accurate. Like, they turned this into a lizard, but really it's like a two-sided blade, or what seems to be a two-sided blade. And so this you know, you can at least see the features of on the Egyptian one more clearly in this, even if it's not fully accurate in what he's holding. But so yeah, this guy is called is basically the gatekeeper of the U.S., or what the district that basically corresponded to the U.S. before Jackson annexed Florida, or Jackson and Jefferson, or whatever. So, well, I guess, no, it's not that far south. So I guess it would be, if this was the gatekeeper, if this was like the border of the U.S., then it would be, yeah, it would be quite a bit different. But, which is interesting, because on the West Coast, the borders between Mexico and the U.S. and Canada and the U.S. are virtually identical to the ancient borders, the ancient gatekeepers. So anyway, there's that guy, and you know, it's interesting. You can really see how his legs are deliberately shown as, you know, both sticking out at a diagonal angle, and I think that represents the shape at the opening here. And you know, like all these gatekeepers, they usually always have an arm holding a knife, but since this arm seems particularly thick, I think that may indicate that it actually does represent this actual feature, this actual shape right here. And then, you know, I guess this kind of weird knobbly part here is kind of ignored, and this whole thing is just treated as his butt. Or maybe these are like one butt cheek and like the other one is here. That could be. So his name is like the sharp one. I forget what it is in Egyptian. But I think he was sharp in both directions, like the pointy-ish Delmarva and pointy-ish Long Island. Yeah, so here's like a possibility. One possibility I was thinking for that mystery guardian gatekeeper guy is that somehow the dots on one of his legs represent the Appalachians, and that one of his feet is Nova Scotia. But anyway, who knows? Probably not, but maybe. Probably mostly connected to water and coastline. So this is like a comparison of Baja California, where I used a reconstruction recreation because the original is just really faded. So actually I think this is not even a correct reconstruction, because the lines through it, I think this is supposed to indicate, well, maybe it's correct anyway, but like basically in the original it's white, and it's so faded, even the outline of it is so faded that you can just barely see it. So I'm using this, and it's a little bit crooked. I just took a photo from my book by Will Sherbini, Through Hermopolitan Lenses, which is the most complete book other than mine about the Book of Two Ways. And although in some ways Lesko is more complete if you're looking at both versions of the Book of Two Ways, but Sherbini's is the most complete on this kind of classic version. So anyway, you see here Baja California, and it's not completely exact, but at least it has a bump for this, spiky bit. And it's relatively flat on the bottom and then more bumpy on the top and everything, and gets thicker at the top, which is true. At the northern part. Here's the Gulf of California, the West Coast. So, these, even though it's a peninsula, a lot of these peninsulas are depicted separately from the coast, but like guarding the coast. Here's the Rio Grande, which is another zoomorphic figure, but you just see his tail here. Or the Rio Grande. I don't know if I spelled that right. I guess I should check into that, because it's like Rio Grande to Texans, and it's the Rio Bravo to Mexicans. So I don't know. Hopefully that's spelled right. Because I think that the Texans still spell it with an E, they just don't pronounce the E. Anyway, and then here's like San Diego, here's Los Angeles, here's Las Vegas, just to show like this is the closest guardian of these major guardians to all these places. By far, it's probably my closest. I'm in Santa Cruz. Not sure if I'm closer to it or to I'm probably closer to it than Vancouver Island, which I think is the next one up, which is so small and minor that it hasn't even been illustrated in a depiction in any of these maps that I've seen. This is showing, a better, larger picture of, this figure, the Chesapeake Bay, with the feather up here and the head, pointed backwards, and the body here, and the legs splayed out here. But yeah, you can really see here that there's definitely, it's a two-sided blade or whatever it is, spear or something. But it's sharp. I mean, it must be sharp because his name is literally the Sharp One. So that seems to be that, of course, the lower one, which goes over his, goes underneath him or whatever, would be Delmarva, and which, he kind of has open, he's kind of opens the opening of the bay, just as in a lot of these depictions, they kind of open further the openings of these bays and estuaries and stuff. But then the upper part here would be Long Island. So, I mean, because what else would it be? Obviously, it's not going to be, there's nothing sticking out of here. And this one is probably, there might even be a little bump there for his hand. So this may basically be his hand. And